Smith, and welcome to another edition of Issues in Focus. Yes, it's another time for us to talk hot topical issues of the week, and wow, today it got really hot. Today it got really interesting. Today it got really political. Yes, weeks ago we talked about the president having taken the opportunity to start vetting candidates to replace Judge Souter, who has said that as soon as a replacement can be made for him, he's ready to step down. Well, there has been a lot of names thrown out. As I said 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did a blog and I said, what kind of justice? Who should we be looking for? At the time, I was just about speculating like so many others. The name Diane Woods, the name Elena Kagan, the name Sonia Sotomayor were the three leading candidates, among others. There was Janet Napolitano, who is Homeland Security Secretary. There was Ms. Granholm, who is the governor of Michigan. There was Deval Patrick, governor of Massachusetts, the only black man that was mentioned. There was another black woman, I think her name was Spears Ward from Georgia, among so many others. But finally, as I said, we all speculated on who the president would select, and today he introduced that person to us, and she is Sonia Sotomayor from the Bronx. She grew up in New York. She lived in the Bronx in the public houses, and now she is ready to ascend to one of the highest houses in the country. Her congratulations. I think my congratulations to her are well deserved. But even if that was not the case, as I said, she has a storied history. She has spent 17 years on the bench. She has been a judge, a litigator, and her educational background, Princeton and Yale. She became second in her class at Princeton, graduated summa cum laude, Alpha Kappa Alpha, she was a part of that honor society. So in terms of her brilliance, people are saying that she is very confident. Her educational background is solid, and in terms of who she is, how she climbed the social system in terms of her parenting, and not in terms of her home, in terms of, she was raised by a single mother. I think I understand her mother is a nurse, and as I said, she worked her way through the system to be at this spot where today President Barack Obama is able to make an historic appointment. He is the first African American president, and she will be the first Hispanic American and a Latina to be appointed to this position. I think it's exciting for the Latina population. I think it's exciting for women. After all, she's a woman, and 51% of America are women. We vote more than our men. That's the truth. Guys, we vote more than you do. Secondly, despite all the talk that you hear, only 17% of women are represented in Congress in terms of their numbers, and in the corporate boardrooms of America, we only represent 3%. So while there was much speculation on my part, on the part of many of my friends and associates, we never knew who it was going to be. We thought it would have been good to make it a woman. After all, the only woman that now sits with the other justices is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. When Sandra Day O'Connor stepped down, I thought she would have been replaced by a woman. She wasn't, and the president now has moved to appoint Sonia Sotomayor to this new position, and I think it's a bold move. It's a smart move. It's using its political capital in a wise way. I mean, I'm sure there will be detractors, would from inside his party, and probably from the GOP saying this was not a good pick. I think it's an excellent pick. He didn't have to sit at the feet of Machiavelli to understand that this was right. And I don't think it's even so much of politics about it. He felt that he needed someone who would not only move to interpret the Constitution, but bring their empathy, meaning their life experience in terms of who they are, how they know societies, in terms of how they see people who will come before them. Yes, the GOP is saying that it spells activist, and they want a constructionist on the board. But after all, people have been appointed to the Supreme Court who people thought they were going to be liberals or progressives, and they have voted as conservatives. Some have gone out to be conservatives, and they have turned out to be progressives. Will Sonia Sotomayor, who everyone is thinking will be a liberal on the Supreme Court, will she be a liberal or will she be a moderate? I think that most people are really moderate, like myself. I don't consider myself a liberal. I don't consider myself a conservative. I am a centrist, meaning my values, I don't leave them by the wayside. I usually take them with me. So again, the topic is Sonia Sotomayor from New York, newly appointed. What will the confirmation be like? Already, Rush Limbaugh and Mike Huckabee are already throwing stones at her. Expected. The GOP, will say that, we want a strict constructionist. We want somebody to interpret the Constitution, not come here to bring in personal feelings and emotions into how. But people are saying, after all, this president will appoint someone. It is a political appointment. It has always been, and unless something unlikely turns up in her background or during the hearing she experiences a meltdown, people are saying this is going to be a show-in. So for the Latina community, I understand and I know there's much celebration, and I'm not surprised at that. But I think that in terms of the move, it's a bold political move. It is smart. It's appropriate. It's what it should be. I never thought it was going to be a man. Not that it couldn't be, because let's not kid ourselves. There are some men who are better than men, than women in terms of how they work with women. Not all women work with other women well, or not all women consider women's issues all the time. So I'm not going to say it could not have been a man, but I think that in terms of our numbers, how we vote, our representation in the political system in the boardrooms of America, it is quite appropriate that there is another woman on the Supreme Court with Beda Ginsburg. As I said, she's well qualified, Yale, Princeton, summa cum laude, Phi Kappa, Honor Society, and as I said, in terms of, she's been there for 17 years, she has, private and public experience, and as far as I can see, people believe that this should be a show-in. We don't know, because the confirmation hearings has not begun, and as I said, I am looking, however, to some exciting weeks of discussions and commentaries and analyses of how, just looking forward to see how all of this will end up. Number two, on the issue, on issues in focus. Last week we heard so much about national security. Yesterday was Memorial Day, and we celebrated, we honored our servicemen all over the country. This week in New York City, it's Fleet Week. I understand that Fleet Week is in New York, and a lot of people from the Navy are in town, and so national security has been tops on the list also. Last week we heard President Obama addressing the nation on his views on closing Gitmo, the opposition to Gitmo. The question is, where will all these detainees go? Do our federal prisons have the ability to accommodate them? And we heard, Mr. Cheney getting equal time on television to say that he was uncomfortable with the move that the president was taking in terms of moving the country, in keeping the country safe. As I said, I'm not an expert in foreign affairs or in foreign policy or in terms of what has to be done. I don't have access to that intelligence, but I cannot see why President Obama, with 3 GOP now in his cabinet and having Bob Gates, would not move to use his ability as a leader and as commander-in-chief to keep us safe. I could be wrong, but for now, I think the president would do whatever it takes to keep us safe.